Dad got decade-long revenge on my auntie, by user OK Caterpillar 2804. A little setup. My dad is one of 9 children to my grandparents. When the oldest sister, my auntie, let's call her Margaret, got married, one of the gifts she received was 4 very poorly made clay pots from one of her friends who wasn't super close to the family. They were all very different to each other and didn't match at all. I assume they came out of a first-timers pottery class or something. Anyway, fast forward 15 years and my parents are getting married. Margaret shows up at the wedding. As does everyone else. The ceremony and reception pass with no dramas and everyone goes home. The following week my parents begin to sort through all their wedding gifts. Unwrap Margaret's to find a very old worn-looking cardboard box with the old tape still underneath, the new tape put on there by Margaret to hold the lid closed. Dad opens the box to see the 4 pots that had been given to Margaret 15 years prior. My parents knew this was a gift to Margaret originally because at the bottom of the box was a cord of "Congratulations on your wedding," addressed to Margaret. She hadn't even bothered to take the pots out of the box when she was gifted them or checked the condition when rewrapping them. This thoroughly pissed off my dad. Then his anger turned to determination as he started to develop a plan that would stretch almost a decade. With Christmas fast approaching, my dad rewrapped the pots in the same box with the same wedding card addressed to Margaret. Essentially in the same condition he had received it in. He then wrote another card addressed to another of his siblings explaining his plan. He gave the present to the youngest of his siblings. The newer card explained that she was to hold on to the pots until the next Christmas, making sure to unwrap it and make sure that everyone could see the pots in one way or another. The card then explained to leave the wedding card in the box and to not let anyone see it. My auntie would then hold on to the box, pots and card until next Christmas. She would then gift them and my dad's note to the next sibling above her in age, my uncle. This cycle would repeat another 8 times until it reached the oldest sibling, Margaret. In my dad's letter, it instructed the last sibling before Margaret to not give her the letter written by him regarding the plan. 9 years after giving the gift away, my dad and all his siblings watched as she pulled out the pots that she had seen being passed around from sister to sister for the last decade. She then noticed the note still in the box. She opened it and a Category 4.2 earthquake was registered as her jaw hit the floor. Now, most people would expect her to erupt in rage, but Australians have some of the best senses of humor on the planet. The family all had a good chuckle about it and moved on to Christmas lunch. The pots are now separated. One going to my dad, Margaret, my grandparents, and the last being the trophy of the annual cricket game. It was sadly destroyed by a rouge ball in that very same yearly tournament and is now only half a trophy. Hope you enjoyed. Edit. Thanks so much for the awards. They're actually my first ever face with tears of joy. Do not reopen negotiations when a deal is already too good, by user Snsgrg. Years ago I was moving cross-country and was selling large or heavy items I didn't want to move. I listed stuff on Craigslist at fire sale prices. I guessed at what I thought each item would normally move for and priced it at 25 to 50% just to make the process quick. I wanted everything gone by nightfall. Most items went smooth and quick, but as you might imagine, some people are gonna try to take advantage of this situation. I put up a 300-pound weight set with a stand, Olympic bar, and curl bar for $50. I got an insane amount of calls even after taking the ad down and immediately knew I had priced too low. The later callers offered much more than $50 to sell to them instead. I told him I would abide by the first caller's deal as long as first caller does. First caller shows up and tries to immediately load the items. Nah man, money first, then I will help you load. He pauses and says, I only have $45. Can you do it for that? It is pretty obvious he wanted to pull this after it was loaded so he could save $5. After a day of dealing with Craigslist people, I was in no mood for these shenanigans. I explained to him the amount of phone calls and I have a standing offer of $150, small embellishment, and I was planning to do the $50 if he came correct. Since he reopened negotiations, we no longer have a deal and he would now have to beat the $150 offer. He thinks and offers $151, to which I reply that bid increments are $5 and he needs $155 and he needs the cash now because the other offer is ready to go. Wouldn't you know it? He pulls out $155 that he had on him the whole time. I take the money and sit on my couch and turn on the TV. He says, I thought you were gonna help me load. I replied, that is part of the first deal. Our renegotiation didn't include any help. He huffed and puffed but started loading, huffing and puffing more with each trip. I did end up moving the weights just outside my front door so I could get him out of my sight. I'm a GC and had a guy from Craigslist screw me on a job. I got him back though, by user Mark Miller 04. I had a demo and cleanup job I needed 5 guys for to be sure it was completed on time. I have 3 full-time workers so I posted an ad for 2 guys to help finish the demo/cleanup. Got a response, a guy and his roommate will work for $22 an hour etc. Told them to be on site at 8:30 hits, they're nowhere to be seen. I call, he tells me his roommate woke up late but ensures me they're on their way. From where he said they lived to my job was about 30 minutes. So 9:30, still no show. Call, he says they had to stop to get gas and a bite to eat. 10 hits, and at this point I figure he's just messing with me so I play into it. He never shows up. About 6 months later, need more help in another job, post an ad, and this same guy responds. I figure, I don't want him on my job but I can mess with him. I give him an address in the hills and tell him to be there at 8. I fully expect that he finds pull the same crap so I just go about my day. Well about 8:45 he calls me and is pissed because he was at that house at 8, and no one answered. Then he had to drive back down the hill, about 30 minutes, to get service to call me. I profusely apologize and tell him that I had to go to the lumber yard, but that I'm on my way back, so go back to the house and I'll be there in about 45 minutes. 2 hours later he calls me cussing me out. So worth it. Dogs won't stop barking, meet my leaf blower, by user Savengaby. So the neighbor behind me has 3 dogs. For 3 years I've been listening to them bark, driving me nuts in the summer. Now I get that dogs bark and play, blah blah. I'm talking about at night constant barking here. Each fall he sets up a big screen for a couple's night and they all have their own little bonfire kettle and snuggle under blankets and watch a movie. I think it's nice. The movie is usually loud, but it's once a year and they are always done by 10:30. No big deal. On this particular night they are all cuddled up watching away. I'm in my basement and can hear the dogs barking over the movie. I started fuming again. Pissed off I walked outside, went to the fence screaming at him asking if he can hear his damn dogs over the movie. I stayed away from the fence cause this guy is huge and no doubt could kick my ass. He dared me to come to the fence line and say it to his face. Needless to say words were exchanged. I had just gotten done cleaning up my yard that day, so I grabbed my leaf blower and a roll of tape. Started that baby up, taped the trigger down and went back inside. 5 minutes later there's a knock at the door. It's the cops. He called the cops on me. They wanted to ticket me for making nuisance noise if I wouldn't shut it off. I told them it's a tool and that I had till 10 p.m. to run it. While explaining the situation to them, the blower ran out of gas and they said they were glad the situation was over. But not for me, I was really pissed. When I went back to get the blower I grabbed my chainsaw and the tape. He saw me and was equally pissed as I ruined the movie for like 4 couples and him. More words were exchanged, much more harsh than before but I didn't care. The chainsaw gas needed to be emptied for the winter. I can only imagine his thoughts when he heard the first couple pulls on the saw. This was a couple years ago, I haven't spoken with him, or heard his dogs bark at night either. Won't pay me what I'm worth? Enjoy Black Friday, by user Bailey the Nerd. Alright, so this is from several years ago when I was working at Best Buy and I've likely already posted this story somewhere in r/Tales from Retail, but I figure it warrants a retelling here. Background, I worked in the phone department at Worst Buy for about 3 years. I came from a Radio Shack before this job, so I knew how to sell phones. Over those 3 years, everyone I had started working with who already knew how to sell phones moved on to greener pastures. Before I knew it, 2 years in, I had trained everyone on the team how to sell phones, including my direct manager and assistant manager. It wasn't too bad, I liked the people I worked with. My manager basically made me pseudo-manager in his stead because he wasn't really willing to learn the intricacies of phone carriers. So I basically got final call on how to handle difficult situations with customers or carriers. But then the penny dropped. I was conversing with a new coworker I trained. Me, so, how are you liking selling phones, bud? Coworker, it's complicated, and kind of hard, but at least now I see why we make what we do. Make what we do? Me, what do you mean make what we do? How much are they starting you off at? Keep in mind, this is a brand new employee. It's literally his first job. Coworker, oh, $15/HR. What? I was making only $14.50/HR and I had already worked there for 3 years. So I immediately start looking into my job role. I found on the company website that the pay scale for my job role is $13/HR, $17/HR in my area. The next day I asked my direct manager. He apologizes and explains that he doesn't get to directly change pay scales that much, and that's a decision for the general manager. So I go talk to the general manager. Hey GM, I was looking at the pay scale for my job, and I wanted to see if we could raise my pay to the upper end of the pay scale, $17/HR, since I had been here for 3 years and have trained every one of my co-workers on how to sell phones, despite that not being my job role. GM's eyes narrow. GM, Bailey the nerd, why don't you walk with me? Note, I'm not going to post the full conversation here, because he spent the next 15 minutes walking me in a loop around the store explaining to me that no, he would not give me that raise. Truth be told, I tuned out the majority of the conversation after that very firm no, but I did pick up the following excuses. It wasn't in the budget. I hadn't been at that store long enough. That's not how it works. It wouldn't be fair to co-workers with the same amount of tenure. I was seeing red, and very nearly quit on the spot. But, my cooler head won. I am not someone who's going to go out when there's such a prime opportunity coming up. You see, this conversation happened in late October. Now, tell me class, what holiday comes next month? I start my job searching. Eventually, I find another job selling phones for $17/HR plus commission. BTW, that job sucked worse, so, don't sell phones kids. I bide my time, and 15 days out from Black Friday I walk up to the GM and hand him a note. GM, what's this? It's my 2-week notice. GM, your 2-week notice? Yup. GM, 2 weeks from Black Friday? 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, actually, but who's counting? GM, He retreated into his office. I didn't get the begging or panic that I was hoping for. But, oh well, at least I'm getting out. The days roll by, I get more lax in my job, but still help my co-workers when they need it, because I loved all of them. 2 days before my last day, GM approaches me. GM, so, Bailey the nerd, I was wondering, is there any way we can convince you to stay working here? Probably not, but feel free to shoot your shot. GM, well, I was thinking about it, and I think you are definitely worth that raise to $17/HR that you were asking about. Wow, how gracious of you. But I'm afraid you'll have to do better than that. My next job is $17/HR plus commission. GM, well, what could I do to keep you? Well, you could have appreciated the work I put in before I found a better paying job. GM, right. Fallout, their mobile sales were a mess on Black Friday. While all of my co-workers that I taught were fully capable of selling phones by themselves, they'd get confused or caught up on the intricacies of when things went wrong. If a phone number got stuck in a port, if the wrong SIMs were scanned, etc. They relied on me for all of that. Most of the phones that ended up getting sold, were sold to resellers and fraud customers, which causes chargebacks from the carrier. The mobile department had probably its worst month ever after I left. TLDR. Hey manager, I've been doing the job of a manager in my department, can I make a little more money than the new goobers I've been training? Manager, LOL no. Enjoy being short-staffed on Black Friday. Manager, wait. Fuck.